Okay, A plus day, everyone. Welcome. So today, I just want to I got an idea of just about everyone here is working on the 1001. We have a couple 1002s, and then we have some networking stuff that we can address a little later, which is no problem at all. Um, so before we get started, since it's a decent mix in here, um, I want to get an idea for what you all feel you're struggling with. Or is there any areas that you feel um, that you are not really up to par in, or just something that you need some pointers in? What would
So
it be?
I'm still very early in 1002, but I've been working on the command lines lately, and I can tell that that's probably going to take a good amount of work. So I was just wondering if you knew any like good. I mean, I'm sure practice is the best way, of course, but I mean, if you knew any good resources that of course, opening command line, but if there was anything that like walked you through it a little bit more than just here's command line, play around with it.
Um, yeah, you know what? There is a good tool. Like you said, there's really no substitute. The good thing about the 1002 is most of it you already have access to, like the command line. Um, in software tools like defrag and uh, MS config. Like a lot of the stuff that you're going to be tested on, you have access to it, which makes it, one of the, I don't want to call it it's just when it comes to resources, they're easier to come by when it comes to the 1002. Okay, so obviously there's no substitute for, if you want to know what there is to know about IP config, you just go to the command line, you type IP config slash all. Okay, it's going to give you, or I'm sorry, right? It's going to give you a list of all of your options here. It's going to give you all the switches, right? It's going to tell you what you're going to use each one for. Okay, now I can tell you this. On the 1002 exam, it is possible that they can ask you about a switch. Okay, for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, IP config is sort of the main command, and then you have these 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 switches here which give you other options, right? So if I were to type in renew, right, as a switch, then what it's going to do is it's going to renew the adapters, right? If I were to type in uh, release, right, and it tells you here, what it does. So what I can tell you is that it is possible for them to give you a switch, but I wouldn't, I wouldn't bank on it. I can't. I don't think they gave me a switch as far as the command line went on my 1002. It's still kind of fresh. I didn't take it too long ago. It was about a month ago. I don't remember seeing any switches, not when it comes to command line stuff with Windows. But you do need to know, what the Linux stuff is going to do, right? What is the su command going to do in Linux? What is the change, the change own, how do you change the ownership in Linux, or view the directory, right? Things like that. You're going to want to know, which commands are going to allow you to do all those. So make sure you do your homework there. But when it comes to getting practice with this, one tool that you can use is something that I use often, and it is it's a hands-on simulator, right, from Pearson. There are activities. It walks you through um, command line stuff. So if you come down to, I think it's, oh, here we go, command, it would be under command line tools, right? So this section here, what it's going to do is it's going to give you activities for you to practice using the command line, right? It's going to walk you through how to do it, and it's going to ask you questions and things like that. So it's a teaching tool as well as a place for you to practice without having to, worry about doing any damage, which, you're not going to do any damage with the ARP command anyway, right? Like ARP and, most of the command line stuff, you're not going to do any damage. The ones you want to stay away from are like this part where you can, you can make changes to the partitions. Format, obviously, you want to stay away from that. if you're playing around on your own PC. But this tool right here is going to give you some practice into doing this stuff. So this is what, this is something that I would recommend, because it's not just, you're not just looking at a list of commands and saying, okay, this is one, this is one, this is one. You're actually doing an activity where you're applying this, and you kind of, it helps to retain this stuff, when you have that extra, what's the word? That extra layer of understanding, you know what I mean? As opposed to just, okay, what commands are available to me? It's different when you actually use them.
Yeah, it's like memory through application instead of just memorizing, right?
Exactly, right? That's why I would recommend this tool, because it's going to give you practice doing all that stuff.
Okay, yeah, that looks like exactly what I'm looking for.
Okay, yeah, you have RPeer, you have IP config, NS lookup, right trace route. So it's going to give you a decent list of the stuff that you really need to be worried about for the 1002. But just don't get too hung up on command line, because 1002, because you got to remember, right, there's different operating systems. So, right, you have Win 7, Win 8, 8.1, you have 10, right? It's gonna focus a bit more on the different features that you're gonna see in each of those operating systems than this stuff, because this is universal to whatever operating system you're using. When it comes to Windows, right? IP config isn't gonna change based off of which window version you're using. So what they really want to know is that you understand like the specs, what features are available to you in Windows 7 versus, Windows 7 Pro versus Windows 8 Ultimate.
Okay.
So things like that. That's where I would put the majority of my focus. But if you want to get practice with command line stuff, this is a good tool.
Right. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem at all. I will put the link in the chat box so you can see where you can get your hands on this.
Okay, great.
This, by the way, this doesn't come your LearnKey stuff. This is considered an outside resource, but it is from Pearson. So this is probably, if you're going to use the outside resource, this is what you want to use, something like this. Copy and paste. All right. So what else? That's good stuff. 1002. The main difference for those of you that don't know is your 1001 is going to be more geared towards the hardware. So the actual physical stuff, right? The motherboard and the RAM, the connectors, right? Your like your video connectors, your storage devices, your processor, right? Your chipset, stuff like that. Troubleshooting tools. Okay, that's what the main focus is going to be on the 1001. Whereas, with the exception of virtualization, right? This is something that they actually added from the second exam. On the previous series, you would find this on the 900 series. You'd find this actually on the second exam, but they moved it over here. Luckily, there's only 12%, so the majority of the focus is still going to be on hardware, right? You can see that just by looking at the numbers, right? Hardware and hardware troubleshooting, okay? Whereas with the 1002, the focus is more on, it's more software based, right? So it's about the software tools. So not like your multimeters or your crimpers, right? Now we're talking about like SFC, right? System file checker and disk check and defrag, right? Like your software tools, the stuff that you use to fix things, software-based stuff. Okay, so that's how they really separated the exam. They kind of separated from a hardware and a software standpoint. And so operating systems is going to be like your main focus on operating systems and software troubleshooting. Now, also the other thing I want to point out for those of you that don't know is you get your introduction into the stuff that you're going to see a little later. So for the majority, I think most of you have like A+, Net+, Security+, right? Most of you'll probably have all three of those. So what I want you to understand is you actually get your introduction into those in these exams here. So on the 1001, you're going to get your introduction into networking. You can see it's a pretty prominent, domain here. It comes in third, actually. Actually, it comes in second. So you see a decent amount of it. What I want you to understand is it doesn't go into a lot of detail. Okay, it's the basics of networking. All right, they're not going to hit you heavy with it. They're just kind of give you an introduction to it. So when you get to networking, you have the foundation for it already. You're not trying to learn. You already have some stuff to go off of. Okay, and then with that said, on the 1002, that's where you're actually going to see your introduction to security. Okay, it's the same concept. You're going to see quite a bit of it, but it's going to be dumbed down. Okay, they're not going to be asking you crazy encryption type stuff. It's just basically about kind of like the common sense security type stuff, right? Like what are some of the basic ways to make something more secure, right? Tie it down if it's loose, or put it behind a door and lock it, or, stuff like that, right? The difference between like physical security versus logical. I think we were talking a little bit about that last week too, when someone mentioned it on an exam that they took. But yeah, it's when you see security here, a lot of it is just basic, and you can see when you look at the knowledge, at the objectives, because it just says like summarize the importance of physical security, right? So what's the importance of locking the door, right? Or putting a man trap up, or hiring a security guard, or buying a dog, whatever it is, that type of stuff, versus logical security, right? And that's when you're like configuring stuff. You're configuring port security, right, on the switch, or MAC filtering, right? That's your type of your logical type stuff. So, what else? And you can see here, they're not really saying implement. For the most part, it's compare and contrast type stuff. They're not saying decrypt. It's compare and contrast social engineering. So what's the difference between phishing and spear phishing, right? So, I just say all that to say, don't get overwhelmed when you see like the security on here, because it doesn't go into a lot of detail. Now, when you get to Security Plus, that's a different story. But for now, they're just kind of giving you an introduction into the stuff, so you have something to go on when you get there. So, any pointers about study tips to help with questions on 1001? So for me, for the 1001, like I said, it's more about hardware. So what I did, okay, this is me. This is like back when I was trying to learn this stuff the first time. What really helped me is having a PC that I could take apart, because like I was explaining before with the reason I like that networking tool so much is, one, I'm a hands-on learner. So for me, doing something like that goes a whole lot further than listening to lectures or taking notes, which I do that as well. But for me, this is the stuff that really sticks is whatever I can. If I can do it, I can remember it. Right? I'll feel comfortable. I never feel comfortable doing anything until I've tried it. Right? Even if I've sat through a class for 10 hours or whatever. When I try it is when I actually feel comfortable, and when I can do it, that's when I know. So for me, get your hands on something that'll allow you to practice this stuff, because there's only so much that you can get from from taking practice tests and writing down notes and stuff. Some of it sticks, some of it may not. The other thing, when it comes to it's not really study tips, it's more of a exam taking tip. Okay, like these exams, they can be confusing. And I think a lot of people end up failing these exams not because of lack of knowledge. I think a lot of the times it could be a combination of stuff, right? It could be test anxiety. Maybe you're just bad at taking tests. Sometimes it's comprehension. right? Just understanding what exactly they're asking. I know I've got probably more than quite a few questions wrong just because, I didn't fully understand the question or I didn't pay enough attention to it. I'll put it that way, right? Sometimes I'm a skimmer, so sometimes I'll skim past stuff. And I notice that when I'm taking practice exams, I'll miss something that I know that I shouldn't have missed because I didn't read it how I should. So here's my spill on this. It's more of an exam taking tip. Make sure you read the questions. Take your time. I know we only have 90 minutes, okay? But the majority of the questions, if you do your homework, 7 out of 8 of them, you should feel pretty comfortable about because they're not really trying to trick you. It's just the wording throws us off, okay? Even me, I've been in the field for a while now, and the wording, it still throws me off sometimes. I have to go back and read it and make sure, okay, yeah, that's what they were asking me, okay? Make sure you read the question. Make sure you key in on what it is that they're actually asking and look for whatever keyword is in the question. Most of them have a keyword and they do you a favor. They make it all caps, so it's easy to spot, okay? But make sure you pay attention to those. The second thing, try to keep your momentum, okay? One of the things that threw me off my first exam was I got stuck staring at questions instead of just passing them up and moving forward, which is something that you can't do on IC&D, okay? But on CompTIA, you can. Just skip it. If it's something that it feels like it's left field, because if you sit there and end up staring at it, one, you're losing time. Two, you're throwing off your momentum, right? You just kind of get thrown off. And so what I try to do is I just try to keep moving forward, even if it's a question that I'm not comfortable with.
Hey, Tristan, I missed it. You said that ICD-1, you can't skip questions or go back to it?
That is correct.
So you just answer it one and move on to the next?
Yes.
You have to answer.
You have to answer them as.
You answer it when you read it. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, no worries. I wish they would change that, and they do have a change coming up in the next 4 or 5 months. They're making a big change to the Cisco exam, and hopefully they change that because that's a big. It's hard enough. you know what I mean? Because then you kind of get forced to sit there and stare at something. you kind of have no choice. But with CompTIA, you don't have to. So just keep your momentum, okay? Even if you notice maybe there's 2 in a row that you're like, I'll answer this one later. Yeah, this one too. Just flag it and try to keep your momentum, okay? A lot of the times you'll see something later on that'll trigger your memory on something that you saw before, okay? That happens to me a lot. So try to keep your momentum, okay? And then obviously, like the first ones, the performance-based questions, the ones that you see at the beginning, I always skip those too. Unless it's something that's just super simple, but even then, sometimes I'll just skip it and come back to it. I'll try to build my momentum in the multiple choice section, which is 90% of the exam. 90 to 95% is multiple choice. So the other thing is, what is it? Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Thirdly, if you don't know the answer, you're gonna get probably quite a few questions where you kind of, this is the answer. You're pretty, you're 90% sure there's an answer. Then you're gonna come across a few where you're not sure, right? It could be this one or it could be that one. All right. So anytime you don't know the answer right off the bat, look for what you know it's not. They always give you a couple that you can just throw right out, right? Like if they're asking a command line question, if you do your homework, you'll be able to spot the one that doesn't fit, okay? If they give you like ping, trace route, ARC, and TCP, if you do your homework, TCP doesn't fit, right? So anytime you don't know what an answer is right off the bat, look for what you can throw out, and then if you have to guess, at least your percentage is better. Okay, it's not just it is about knowing the information. Okay, but like I said, I think that there's a lot of people that know the information and still fail just because comprehension or whatever it is. So it's not just about knowing the information, it's about coming up with a good test taking strategy as well. Okay, that is very important with these exams because these are the hardest exams that I've taken in my life. And I've taken some, I don't have a master's or anything, but I got a degree. I've taken quite a few exams, and but these ones, especially like starting off when you're just coming into the field, they can be monsters if you don't have prior knowledge to kind of lean on. So it is as much about knowing the information as it is about having a good test taking strategy as well. Okay, so keep that in mind. Sometimes your knowledge will be good enough to get you over the hump, and we've had a few of those students that they just come in and they ace the 1001 because they've been building computers since they were teenagers, or even smaller sometimes, right? So a lot of the concepts here they're not new to them. But for the most part, the students that are going through this exam, a lot of them, probably 80% of them, are just kind of coming to this field from another field, and that's where a lot of people get hung up here is they don't have this right here. They don't have this 12 months of experience, and so they don't have this to lean on. So you have to lean more on whatever it is you can pick up on top of whatever test taking strategy you employ. So I think that's important as well. That's something that I learned like early on because my first exam I didn't do well at all, and I studied probably my first A+ exam. I want to say I overstudied for that. I studied probably 6 weeks before I went in and took it, and I still failed. I think the information was there, but I didn't really have the test taking strategy yet. So I think that's what I was lacking. And then, so when I went in for my retake, I just made an adjustment to my test taking strategy. I kept the same study strategy. I just made an adjustment to my test taking strategy, and then I found the blueprint, and I've been using that same one since then. So that would be my pointer as far as that goes. I know it's kind of a long-winded answer, but yeah. But you know what? You're not alone. I can tell you that we're all here for you. So it is a struggle, and I can tell you this: I don't think that I would be any good to any of you if I didn't struggle myself when I went through this program, because I want to be able to relate. You know what I mean? So it is. I can tell you this: I failed, and I think the journey is just you appreciate it so much more when there's struggle there, right? It makes it that much more worth it when you cross the finish line. So don't let it deter you. Just keep pressing forward, keep pressing, and make sure you lean on us as well. Like, we're all here. Myself, all the other students that are taking the same exam, going through the same struggle as you. It's important that we all kind of help each other out and lean on each other. All right, especially for these exams, because they're not easy. They're not easy at all, but they're passable. So they're definitely passable. Okay. What else? Any other concepts that anyone is struggling with, or any specific questions?
Well, this is Spencer. I'm struggling with the terminals. When you go into Linux and you do the terminals, like you said, with the SU when I do the labs.
The labs. Are you talking about you certified labs?
Yes, you certify labs. Yes, sir.
Okay. So look, this is what I'm going to tell you for Linux. All right, Linux and Mac OS. I saw probably 4 or 5 questions on Linux, Mac. Okay, so you don't want to burn yourself out trying to get it. But I can tell you this: one of the best things that you can do is, if you have the RAM, go download the Linux ISO. Okay, if you don't have the link, I can send it to you. But like I was saying before, with I forgot who it was. We were just talking about the hands-on simulator, right? With the command line activities and stuff. That's how you get this stuff to stick. You do it. Watch someone do it, and then do it, and then it'll stick. So a couple things. All right. So Linux, Mac OS, I already said it. You're not going to see a lot of it. All right. I saw probably 4 or 5 questions. You may see a couple more. You may see a couple less. More than likely, you'll see a couple less. All right. This is more of a Windows type of thing. Let's just do this in here. Okay. If you take the time, go through each of these commands. All right. I think Jason goes through these pretty well. Whatever training you want to use, I think they go through them pretty well. Professor Messer goes through them pretty well. Okay. If you know what each of these does, you'll be fine. I get it. I guarantee it. All right. I'm not going to tell you which ones I saw, but the ones that I saw, I was sure about. Okay. That's what I can tell you. I was sure about what I was picking, because I just took, I don't know, probably 20, 30 minutes just to make sure that I knew what each of these did. Okay. With the features, what you want to do with these features is, if you're comfortable with Windows, find a way to relate something to Windows. So for instance, right, the time machine. This is basically the Mac version of Restore. Okay, so that's what I did when I was trying to figure out, all right, how am I going to remember time machine? Okay, well, it's basically like doing a Restore on Windows, right? I'm just going back to another I'm going back to another configuration, right, at an earlier date. Same thing with force quit, right? Force quit is like the same thing as task kill, right? If you can relate it to this task kill in Windows, so just find a way to relate these to whatever it is you're comfortable with. Maybe you're not comfortable with Windows. Maybe you're more comfortable with Linux. Then do the same thing. Find a way to map these features with the other ones, and you should be fine, because you're not going to see a lot on it. I guarantee it. They're not going to give you a Linux command prompt and tell you to go change the ownership of files from user A to user B, right? They're not going to tell you to do that. But what they're going to say is, we want to change ownership, right, of a file. Which command are you going to use, right? And most of them, it's easy to, it is. There's a couple of them where it doesn't really, like, this is remove, right? CP, copy, rename, right? So this is rename. So just look for the ones like this. This is how you view the directory, right? Shutdown should be pretty self-explanatory, right? Kill, it's going to be the same thing as that, right? So some of them, right, this is how you get elevated permissions. I'm sorry, couldn't think of the word, right? So, right, this is basically your Linux version of ipconfig, right? This one you're going to use for wired, right? This one you're going to use for wireless. So, just find a way to make this, to remember this stuff, and you'll be fine. All right. I don't want to tell you to spend a whole bunch of time on this, because, like I said, you're not going to see a lot of it. But if if you're one of those people that really, you learn by doing, then go get a VM. That's what I would do. That's what I did. I use VMware. VMware is free. There's a free version of VirtualBox, so either one will work. And then you can see here I have a a version of Ubuntu, right? So when I was trying to learn this stuff, all I did was I opened up Linux here, right? And I watched training. I watched Jason's training. I just followed along, right? When he typed in the command, I typed it in. And now when I type it in, I'm not just hearing it, I'm typing it and I'm seeing it, right? I'm adding extra aspects to learning, and it sticks better that way. So at least for me, you know, everyone's different. Some people have photographic memories. I don't have to do none of that stuff. I can just scroll through here real quick and everything will just come to them, right? I wish that was me, but it's not. I need to practice. So repetition, right? I need repetition and I need practice. And, you know, if I can do that, then I'll remember how to do anything. And if I don't practice, I'll forget it real quick, you know, or, you know, I'll forget a step or something. But, you know, the more you do something, the more it'll stick. So, by the way, you can get all of the operating systems that you would need to know about for the Teto 2. You have them all right here, right? I'm actually currently running Windows 10 here, and then I have 8.1, 7, and I got Ubuntu, right? There's a bunch of different versions. This is probably going to be your most common of Linux. So, and if you want, you know, just let me know. I can send you a link to get a free, to download this for free. Okay. So the only thing that you would need to do is, you know, make sure that you enable virtualization, because it is disabled by default. So where would you be able to find?
It's a little bit better if they use Oracle VirtualBox, because that's free, and you can load up as many ISOs as you want. Because that's how I got Linux. Use VirtualBox, it's all free. Load up as many ISOs as you want. Whereas the VMware takes a little bit more work. With the VirtualBox, you just click on it, SSH, boom, you're in. If you have a Windows, you can double stack it and have Ubuntu straight into. There's a version of Ubuntu that will play right on your Windows machine, and you just click an icon and it comes up on your desktop. So you can just do everything from there.
That's awesome. So yeah, there you go. I mean, that's even better.
They end up making.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Over on my Windows too.
Thanks for that, Don. That's awesome info. Okay, so yeah, there you go. I mean, that's even better. If you want the link, I'll still send it to you. What was I gonna say? Oh, okay, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. All right, so very important. You need to make sure that you have the RAM. If you want to download the virtual machine, which is, I recommend, if you haven't done it yet, then just do it at least once, just to say that you did get the experience of doing it. It's not hard at all. You know, downloading the virtual machine is actually pretty straightforward. It's just about following the steps, like anything else. Okay. The other thing I was going to say, but you need to make sure that you have the RAM for that. Okay, you're going to need at least 8 gigs. I recommend at least 8 gigs of RAM if you want to run a guest operating system. Okay. If you don't have the RAM, some of the other options that you have would be something like uCertify. Okay, uCertify actually has some virtual machines. There are limited versions of them, so there's some things you'll be able to do, some things you won't. But you will have they are virtual machines, so you'll have access to them, and you'll be able to look at the control panels. You'll be able to see the different features, the interfaces, right? The 8.1 has a Metro interface. So, a lot of stuff you will be able to do. You won't be relying on your own resources.
If you do VirtualBox, it only takes 4K, and then 1 meg for each ISO.
Really?
Yep. Look at my VirtualBox. It's only 1.12K size on disk, 4 kilobytes. then I go
Okay.
I go under my I have 7. Just a second, let me count them. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7 ISOs. So I have GRML, Debian, OpenSUSE, CentOS, Fedora, Kali, and CentOS OS.
Nice. So did you find yourself using virtual machines when you were preparing for 1002? You did take the 1002, correct?
No, I did the 901.
Oh, the 900 series.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did 8
Gotcha.
plus Net plus Linux 1, 2, when ICDN 9. I did all the, so I'm on my 12th cert.
Oh wow, you're on the roll. Okay.
Yeah, that's why I was asking if you can help me out with a couple of things that I text you for Thursday's test on the ICND 2.
Yeah, no worries. Okay. Okay, so Johnny is asking where to get VirtualBox. Same way you get VMware, you just download it. Just go to Google, right? Let's see here. So I'll just come to Google, type in VirtualBox. Go to the VirtualBox download, and then it's probably be it right here, right? So pretty easy to find. And it's pretty, I did have a VirtualBox on my old PC before it crapped on me. So
It's www.virtualbox.org for download VirtualBox 6.0.
there you go.
So it's the second one on your list, Oracle VM VirtualBox.
Oh, this one right here? Oracle, yeah, Oracle VM VirtualBox. There you go.
Yep, that's it.
All right, so I'll put that in the chat box. Yeah, and I definitely recommend it. If you haven't done it, then do it, especially if you're taking a 1002. That's what this is all about. It's about gaining experience now, at least a little bit, the baseline experience. And then as time goes, you just keep updating, what you know. Even me, when I got through the program, I just had the base of the information, right? I had enough to pass, and then you kind of learn when you get in the field. You start working with other people that have been around, longer than you. That's when you really start to learn, right? So, okay, there you go. There's VirtualBox. Okay, what else? Anything else as far as A+ goes? Ports and protocols. Learn them now. Just do yourself a favor and learn them now. They're not going anywhere. So just the common ones.
I just sent you the link to download Ubuntu.
You sent it to me to my email? Or you put it in the chat box? Oh, there. Okay. Got it. Thanks. Appreciate that. Okay. What was I saying? I was saying ports, right? Ports and protocols. Do yourself a favor. Learn them now. Okay. This is relatively very few compared to how many there are. Okay. These are the common ones. They're the ones that are going to keep coming up. Okay. So you're going to see it here in A+. You're going to see it in 1001. Probably see it in 1002. Right. Definitely going to see them in Net Plus. You're definitely going to see them in Security Plus. And if you're taking Cisco, you're going to see them there too. So
Linux too.
Yeah. So point being, get these down now. Okay. Like the good thing is you don't have to go into too much detail in A+, right? Knowing that FTP is associated with port 21 and its file transport protocol, that should be enough for A+. Okay. When you get to Net+, it becomes a lot more important to understand this, right? Like, okay, now which one of these are using TCP, which one is using UDP? And as you move forward, you know, you're going to want to know like which of these are secure, which ones of these aren't, right? Which ones are safe to use, which ones are good to use, which ones you want to stay away from, that type of stuff, okay? But point being, they're not going anywhere. So, you know, get these down now. And then that way, if you see them on the exam, these are going to be like easy ones. That was my other tip. Get the easy ones. Make sure you get the easy ones because there's going to be a decent amount of questions on the exam that are kind of toss-ups, right? It's either this one or it's that one, right? If you get all the easy ones, you get at least half of the toss-ups, you'll pass, right? I'm pretty sure of it. If you get, I don't want to call them easy. Get all the easy ones, right? Like if it's a port question, it's the easy one. If you can't get an easy port question right, you didn't do your homework on A+. Okay, but so to me that's the easy one. And then there's the, you know, just the doing your homework questions, right? Like what's the difference between a switch and a router? You know, what are you going to deploy a firewall for? You know, what's the application of it, right? When would you use a repeater, right? What's the application of that? That type of stuff, right? That's just you're doing your homework type questions. And then you're going to get the 50 ones, right? The 50/50s. So if you get all the easy ones and you get the majority of the doing your homework questions, you should pass. Okay, it's just about, because those 50/50 ones, like even after the exam's over, you don't even know if you got it right. You have to go to Google. If you can remember the question. Half the time I can't even remember them. I remember like probably, I don't know, maybe a third to half of the questions on the exam. The rest of them are just a blur. It's just, oh, okay. You're just clicking through. So, what else? Oh, acronyms. That's the other thing that I didn't really talk about much today. Acronyms. They're on every exam. You're going to see them all over the place. Most of us were in the military. We should be used to acronyms. Okay, this is the next chapter in our acronym careers, right? There's a ton of them. They're all over the place on all of these exams. Make sure you know them. Okay, that's the best advice I can give to you is if you're scrolling through these objectives and you come across something and you're not sure what it is, go find it. There's a list at the bottom, right? Once you get past the last objective, there's a list of acronyms down here. Find it. Whatever it is that you're looking for is down here somewhere, right? If you don't know what SODIMM is, come down here. It'll tell you what it is. Okay, the best thing to do is put it on like a flashcard or whatever it is that you do to remember stuff. Do that. Don't try to memorize all of these. Just look for the ones that are up here somewhere and you don't know what it is. If it's in the objectives, you need to know what it is. All right. So other than that, that's kind of my spill on these exams. They can be easy, they can be hard. They're both. So I can tell you this, I've taken quite a few of them, and I still get nervous walking into an exam, and I don't blow any of these out of the water by any stretch of the imagination, right? I'm not a whiz kid or anything. I do well enough to pass, and I'm okay with that. I don't need a perfect score. If I don't have to go schedule and sit down and take it again, I'm totally fine with that. I don't care if I need a 700 and I get a 700. I don't care. I passed. So I know a lot of people that, they're upset they don't get like perfect scores. Nobody gets a perfect CompTIA score, man. Even Jason misses a couple, right? He's been teaching this stuff for like over 10 years. I'm pretty sure Professor Messer goes in there, he probably misses a couple too. So, they're not easy, but they're passable. I'll say that. They're passable. So, all right. Any other particular questions, comments, concerns? Okay. So, just make sure you're using the right resources, whatever resources work for you. Focus primarily on those. Once you get past Online Expert is necessary. Like, you have no choice. You have to, if you're in our program, you have to use that. But once you're done with Online Expert, it's kind of up to you to determine like how you want to supplement that. What resources do you want to use to fill whatever holes were left, after coming out of Online Expert, right? Jason does a good job of covering like all areas, but he doesn't go into extreme depth within each concept. So there's going to be some stuff that you pull from it that you understand. Some stuff you may feel you don't understand as well as you should, right? So it's about finding the resources that kind of plug those holes. If you can do that, you should be all right. What is the food flow? All right. So I'm gonna start getting these names. I'm getting the names down, and then start already. Just nothing else for this session, and we will go ahead and cut it. Great job, great participation. I love it when everyone is kind of helping and sharing their experiences as well. I think that's awesome. Kind of helps. So, all right, next session should be on Thursday. I'll be back and we'll be talking Security Plus stuff. So, that'll be the next one. Great session. Talk to you next time.